you see the radical left Marxist Democrats, and they are being overrun by the Marxists. They truly are. This is not your father's Democrat Party anymore, and they want to dismantle the very foundations of our republic and everything that we all stand for and that Charlie Kirk evangelized. Everything, as has been said here, everything is on the line in the midterms of 2026, and we have much more to do. But if we lose the House majority, the radical left, as you've already heard, is going to impeach President Trump. They're going to create absolute chaos. We cannot let that happen, and I know you won't. I know you won't. If we refuse to let the left and the mainstream media lie without being challenged, it's our job to challenge it. If we refuse to let outside forces divide us, as Glenn Beck said so well, and if we all will do as Charlie did, and that is fight like happy warriors, advance his principles, and adopt his approach, we will win next year, and we will save the greatest nation in the history of the world. Thank you so much. So good to see everybody. We are so grateful to be with you here at the end of a historic year in Congress, on the eve of our great nation's 250th birthday. And that's right. And in the midst of this epic and fateful battle that truly will determine the future of our great republic. Charlie Kirk understood that better than anyone. And as you've heard here over the last few days, we're no longer in a battle, no longer in a contrast just between Republicans and Democrats. We're in a contrast between two completely different, diametrically opposed worldviews. Charlie stood for that. I knew him a long time, and yes, Andy Biggs, we're going to work on that statue in the Capitol, okay? Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I knew Charlie a long time. I came up in the conservative movement. For about 20 years before I got to Congress, I served as a constitutional law attorney. And so my job was to go into the courts and defend religious freedom and marriage and family and the sanctity of human life. I came across a lot of people during those years. I don't think, when I was doing the work in the courts and the court of public opinion, I don't think there was anyone else who handled that court of public opinion better than Charlie Kirk, and that's why we love his legacy so much. I was honored to be asked to speak at 4 different vigils and events for him following his tragic passing. It was as if the ground shook beneath all of us, and at each one of those things, we all had a short amount of time, and I just presented a simple message, and I wanted to share it with you here this morning. It's a pretty simple thing. I think the best way to honor Charlie's legacy is to live as he lived. And what I mean by that is I think there's 2 very important things that all of us can and should do. I think we should advance his principles, and I think we should adopt his approach. Now let me talk about the first one, advancing his principles. See, what Charlie stood for was very well known by everybody. He was a man of deep faith and conviction, as we know. He was a man who was truly authentic, and that's what drew everybody into the message. That was the great power of his message, was that it came so deep from his heart. It was authentic. Charlie believed in the things that Scripture says we should focus on, the things that are praiseworthy and noble and good. He believed and he preached faith and family and freedom and virtue and patriotism. See, Charlie understood we live in the greatest nation in the history of the world, and it's not even close, and we all know that. The founders built our country on the premise that our rights do not come from the state, they do not come from the government, they come from God himself. And that is what has made us the great nation that we are. Now, look, real quick to close the illustration, then I say, when I'm in a university campus, I say, but you know what the problem is? Over the last few generations, we have strayed from these foundational truths. The foundations are being destroyed. I take an eraser, I go back to the board, and I erase G-O-D, because now there's this movement that denies the Creator himself, denies his commands and his orders and all the things that ordered our liberty in the beginning. And that is the problem, and that is why freedom is imperiled, and that is why we're in a war in this culture to save the greatest nation, this great republic of ours. The best way to restore it is to return and restore those foundations, to return God to the top and to remember who we are beneath him. Look, Charlie knew those foundational truths and he evangelized them better than anybody I know, and now we all have to do the same. So the first principle is advance his principles, and the second one is adopt his approach. I just want to say this to state the obvious, and you all know it. I'm delighted to follow the Professor Glenn Beck here this morning. His message was spot on. See, Charlie loved a vigorous debate, but he loved people more. That's the secret, right? He took to heart the biblical admonitions. Among them are a few. 1 Peter 3:15, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have. I love 2 Timothy 2, and Charlie did as well. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. Charlie also loved 1 Corinthians 16, verse 13. Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong, but let all that you do be done in love. And as radical and as powerful as it is, Jesus reminded us you're supposed to love even your enemies. Now, that's our calling. Charlie was never motivated by hate for anyone. That's why he was such a great example. That's why his legacy lives on as it is, because he was driven by that powerful truth. After every debate, he was always the very first person to reach out a hand of friendship to someone or offer an arm around the shoulder of someone who he felt was lost. Because in so many places, in so many cases, the person on the other side of the table actually was lost in a very real sense, not just philosophically, but spiritually. And it was about this eternal battle. Charlie, our friend Charlie, served sacrificially to pull people back from the abyss. He didn't do it just to save a country. Even more importantly, he did it to save souls. And that's what we have to remember, especially on this Sunday. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. And your presence here today shows that you're in the category of those who do much. I want to thank you for all your willingness to stand and engage in this battle right now. It's never been more important than it is right now. And I want to thank you all for what you did in last fall's election, returning Donald J. Trump to the White House, yes. And allowing us to keep the majorities in Congress, in the House and Senate. Now, let me tell you something. That's in spite of the media's desperate efforts to paint a different picture. We worked arm in arm with President Trump over the last 12 months, and we have had one of the most consequential, historic Congresses in the history of this country. Let me bring you a couple of these. Yeah. America is looking at a split screen right now, okay? On one side is President Trump and our majorities in Congress delivering on our promises. Look, a short list. We ended the border crisis, right? In very short order. We are working right now to solve the crime crisis in all these major cities around the country. We passed the largest tax cut in U.S. history, and at the same time, the largest spending cut in U.S. history. We are restoring American energy dominance. We are bringing down the cost of living, and we are rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse in this government. We kicked illegal aliens off of taxpayer benefits. I think you'd like that. We slashed funding to USAID, PBS, and NPR. Yes. They were too woke, and you know what we did as well? We kicked biological men out of women's sports, and so much more. In the last 12 months, we've codified more than 70 of President Trump's nation-shaping executive orders, and that's so far. And meanwhile, he's been reforming every agency of the federal government and restoring peace through strength again. We desperately needed all of it. All of that is in the past 12 months. We have so much more to do. And by the way, we did it with the smallest margins in U.S. history. I mean, every day, every day. On the other side of that split screen, in quick summary, you see the radical left Marxist Democrats, and they are being overrun by the Marxists. They truly are. This is not your father's Democrat Party anymore, and they want to dismantle the very foundations of our republic and everything that we all stand for and that Charlie Kirk evangelized. Everything, as has been said here, everything is on the line in the midterms of 2026, and we have much more to do. But if we lose the House majority, the radical left, as you've already heard, is going to impeach President Trump. They're going to create absolute chaos. We cannot let that happen, and I know you won't. I know you won't. I want to leave you with three things. If we refuse to let the left and the mainstream media lie without being challenged, it's our job to challenge it. If we refuse to let outside forces divide us, as Glenn Beck said so well, and if we all will do as Charlie did, and that is fight like happy warriors, advance his principles, and adopt his approach, we will win next year, and we will save the greatest nation in the history of the world. We're going to do it together. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Super Centennial. Let's go win. Thank you.